So if you've not been paying attention to the way this show operates, if I get something in my crosshairs that you've never heard of, chances are it's not very good. Especially if it's a 2-episode OVA from 1996. It's just what I do. And I don't particularly think I'm wrong for bracing for impact with this sort of thing, since if it was good enough as an OVA, chances are it got a full release as a TV series. That was how they operated during this time, where if it didn't have a full sponsorship deal for the show out of the gate, they'd produce an OVA and see if it got popular enough to put some weight behind it. That's how You're Under Arrest got its start. By the same token, if you see an OVA all by its lonesome and haven't caught wind of a series attached to it, chances are good that it was one of the ones that got passed over. Such is the case here. So I nipped up Ninja Cadets for like $3 at a used DVD shop, fully expecting every bit of derpiness that could be squeezed from it. Didn't exactly set the world on fire after all, and with a name like Ninja Cadets, it's certainly primed for the bin. For all you folks are probably expecting me to crap on this one, Ninja Cadets actually surprised me in its opening minutes by being exceptionally violent and moody. Granted, it didn't keep that going as the show went on, but a strong start will go a long way. Our story concerns Sakura, a princess sent off to live with ninja for her own protection. She's joined by her friends Matsuri, who dresses like Naga from Slayers with slightly more clothing, and her other friend Yume, who's here to be a doormat. Hayashi, Pochi, and Kaoru are the respective male counterparts, and they're formed into teams of 2 to break into an ancient castle and retrieve a magic scroll to prove they're real ninjas. This would probably be a simple matter, but the problem is that between their happy-go-lucky nature and the assassins on the way to kill Sakura, it's not quite as easy as it may sound. As with most stories surrounding ninja, there is a fair bit of skullduggery and double-dealing going on, but none of it really seems to focus on the characters themselves. Complicating matters is the fact that the main baddies just aren't very threatening. It's not like they're hopelessly incompetent, like Team Rocket or whatever, but they do seem to lack a certain punch. They're dangerous, clearly, but you get the distinct feeling that they were cribbed from a different script and shoved in here haphazardly. Of course, it doesn't help that the direct villainess looks like Tilda Swinton got run through a taffy stretching machine, so that makes it more than a little difficult to take her seriously. I say she's the direct villainess because there's clearly a lot going on behind closed doors to even bring her into the situation, but the real question is, do we know who's behind the whole thing? And the answer to that is, kinda. One of the major issues with Ninja Cadets is that it's very much a show that doesn't leave much of a mark, which is probably why it never got turned into a proper TV show. I remember watching this with some friends and realizing about halfway through that we had just watched an episode and it had actually not managed to affect us in any way, shape, or form. Of course, on closer inspection, it's not all that bad. It does have a weird sort of carbon monoxide quality to it, where you don't really know it's there, but you get a headache anyway. One of the biggest issues with this show is just its complete lack of concern for its own plot. And what I mean by this is that when you're watching a show, you want to feel like the characters are invested in what's going on, right? So you want them to be as concerned with the plot as the plot thinks that you should be. I know that sounds like talking in circles, but bear with me for a minute. What you want out of a show that does such a thing is for the plot and the characters to take themselves just as seriously as the writing does. And Ninja Cadets does not do this. In this case, everybody seems to just be happy to screw around and like, oh no, it's going to be a fun trip to go and break and enter into another person's domicile and steal crap from them. Because we're ninjas, that's what we do. But the point stands that the show just doesn't really have a lot of oomph behind it. There's something in the way that this was written that makes me feel like there was a team of people playing D&D around its story writing. Matsuri, Pochi, and Hayashi are all seemingly rolling botches whenever they try to do anything of note, and Sakura is the one making all the major plot moves and getting all the glory. It feels really unearned. Worse yet is that Kaoru and Yume get mind-controlled halfway through the run, so they're basically useless until they're causing trouble for the others. Making other characters that should be competent act stupid just to make your heroine look good is not a good way to go about things, folks. In spite of that, the show does feature some pretty impressive action beats, even if it feels kind of like Baby's first ninja scroll. It's weirdly blended with some pretty startling violence, people getting cut down, and there's a scene towards the end where one of the baddies is horribly burned, At the same time, one of the main heroes turns into a giant googly-eyed monster to fight a nautiloid mecha, so I guess sense is kind of at a premium here. The stakes are never put at a significant height, despite the battle ending with a ninja nuke, and there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of weight put on life and death. If life and death don't seem to matter all that much in a show, especially if characters just get killed without much fanfare, then it makes the whole work seem a little morbid. And in the case of this show, it seems to kill people off in pretty nasty ways, except the main characters, who remain completely unscathed. It's really pulling its punches pretty noticeably. It's worth noting that this is based on a light novel series, but knowing that it continues really doesn't instill a sense of obligation in me to follow up on it. Aside from all that, according to my sources, this is actually the first anime ever released on DVD, so there's at least a little bit of a claim to fame there. The dub is serviceable, with longtime voice actors like Sandy Fox, Michelle Ruff, and Lex Lang coming in and doing work, but it's not exactly what you would call a revelation. That said, I would actually kind of recommend this one for a slow evening. It doesn't particularly offend my sensibilities, it makes a good show of it, and doesn't overstay its welcome, and while a bit more plot would have been welcome, it doesn't fall into the atrocious territory that a lot of these older OVAs do. It's a fairly inoffensive, if completely 90s way to burn an hour, and if you absolutely must look at it more closely, then it's got some good things going on. Yes, it has a lot of balls in the air, and more than a few of them get dropped, but it certainly makes a go of it. Like I said a few episodes back, if you can't be good, be ambitious, and this certainly has ambition where it needs it. Of course, that doesn't make it an instant classic, but what do I know? I paid $3 for it.